When you tell someone you're depressed, they generally don't understand what that means. They think it's just a mood, like sadness, that'll pass and can be cured by pep talks and exercise and getting some sunshine and having a significant other or good friends, a good family support system. But when you're depressed, there's something literally chemically wrong in your brain. Your prefrontal cortex is damaged. A lot of the time, if you experience trauma in your childhood, something short circuits and no longer works in the prefrontal cortex. I have been feeling symptoms of depression since I was 9 years old. I was actually diagnosed when I was 14 or 15. I was a zombie before the medication, and the medication made me feel like a different kind of zombie. Symptoms of depression would be feeling a physical weight, things that you were once interested in, you have no interest in doing. Your sex drive is non-existent. It's hard to do any sort of task, putting on clothes, getting out of bed, responding to a text. It all seems pointless and meaningless. Dissociated, numb. Dissociation is like not quite feeling real, like you're floating, like you're in a dream almost. Nothing seems to have meaning or purpose. People will talk to you. It'll just kind of go through you. Who cares what they're saying? There's no point. You feel like you have no worth. You feel like life has no worth. You feel useless. I'm aware that, I'm a pretty person, and I'm aware that I have talents, but it doesn't matter. You still feel ugly and worthless and useless and like your existence does no good for anybody. You can look at it at a logical standpoint and be like, no, I know that I'm doing good for some people, people love me, people care for me, but emotionally, you don't feel that at all. So you're just drifting along in this hazy fog, feeling all of this physical pain and weight holding you down, and you just kind of have to sling it over your shoulder and continue with life, and it's difficult. It's hard to smile. It feels like there's no reason to smile. You could watch a comedy movie and nothing will make you laugh. Over the years, I've learned to just put on the mask, and I try to remain happy around people if they're happy, because I don't want to bring them down as well. You'll just break out into tears, sobbing, just no reason. You wake up, you start crying. Read a book, you start crying. You're brushing your teeth, you start crying. You don't understand. It's just painful trying to get from one day to the next. And you feel like that's what your life becomes, is just trying to painfully get through one day after the next, after the next. And a lot of people try to self-medicate to help themselves to get from one day to the next, either by abusing alcohol or drugs, or they self-harm because it brings some sort of adrenaline, which creates some kind of stimulation and makes them feel better. And I actually did one of the worst things you could do with depression. I would punish myself for feeling bad. Friends and family are just suck it up, get over it, you're causing all this everything, So then I would beat myself up and be like, what's wrong with you, I started burning myself when I was a teenager. I don't do it anymore, but it took me a long time to stop. And I would create scars. I wouldn't let them heal because I wanted a reminder not to be a bad person. But that only further ingrained that I was a bad person and created more self-esteem issues for myself. I would hit myself with belts, just thinking about, how horrible a person I am that I can't get on with my life like everyone else. Depression is like, it's so hard to do one little thing while the entire world around you is going at 100 miles per hour. So you're just barely fighting to put that foot out the door. And then you're being coached and judged by all of these people who are moving around you at 10 times the speed. And it makes you feel worse about yourself. And I was diagnosed with major depression, which comes and goes over years. So I'll have periods of having a good life, and I can work and function, and more than function, I can thrive, And then after a couple of years, something happens. I start to get more irritable. Things suddenly seem to be on this flat plane of nothingness, just kind of living out the days. And then all of a sudden, the random tears start coming. Things start to become harder. It feels like a really, really hard ball in the chest. And it hurts to have it there, and it hurts to breathe. That's just how you live every day. I've learned to give myself a little more credit and to try to see myself as, a little stronger, because I've had to deal with this for years. A lot of people say that depression is like drowning, but I've never really liked that metaphor. But if you break down drowning, you're fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting to get to the surface. You're just trying to be where everyone else is, where they're swimming. And you're doing all of this energy. You can't breathe. Your muscles burn, your lungs burn. You feel like you're about to die any second now. And it's so much energy and so much pain, and you ultimately get nowhere. You never reach the surface. And it's really hard to express depression and the feelings of depression because you don't really understand it yourself. It seems to come out of nowhere, and it truly is, because the brain is damaged. And things are not firing the way they're supposed to fire, and things aren't sparking and working, so what do you do? What do you do? I think that's what the big question is with depression. What do you do when everything you've tried has failed?